Have you ever felt like you were born into the battlefield, not the temple? Like you weren't sent here to chant in candlelight, but to walk through fire, unburned? If you're still watching this, let me be clear, you are not soft light. You are forged light, and there is a difference. A massive one. You didn't descend here to bypass the darkness, you came to command it. You didn't come to be protected from demons. You came as the one they fear. And if that sounds familiar, if that resonates in your bones, then you might just be what I call a dark chosen one. Not evil, not corrupted, but untouchable. You're not in the game to be saved. You're here to remind the shadows who built the board. This isn't about ego. This is about remembrance. Because we've all been told that darkness is bad. That to be spiritual is to be soft, radiant, clean. But what if I told you the most powerful spiritual beings aren't afraid of the dark at all? What if I told you that true light, the kind that can't be faked, only emerges when you've sat with your own monsters and made peace with them? You see, demons don't fear those who resist darkness. They fear the ones who own it, who have walked through hell and kept their soul intact, who've been tempted, shattered, seduced, and still chose truth. That's the first real sign. You've been in the depths, and instead of breaking, you remembered who you were inside them. You want to know if you're a dark chosen one? Here's your first sign: you've survived things that should have destroyed you. Not just physically, but spiritually, emotionally, existentially. You've touched madness. You've danced with despair. You've heard the whisper that says, end it. And yet, you didn't. You stayed. You chose to stay. Not because it was easy, but because something inside you knew your mission wasn't over. And here's the truth. Every time you refused to give up, you built immunity. Not just to pain, but to spiritual predators. Demons aren't scared of prayers. They're scared of spiritual resilience. They can't latch onto someone who knows their own shadow. Because you've already faced what they threaten you with and you didn't flinch. Second sign, you don't just fight demons, you understand them. You know how they think. You recognize their patterns. You sense their presence in a room before anyone else does. You don't just see the surface of a person, you read their energy, their wounds, their attachments, their addictions. And you don't fear them because you've seen them in yourself. You've transmuted them. You've taken the poison and alchemized it into power. So when a demonic force tries to attach to you, there's nothing for it to grab. You're clean not because you're pure. You're clean because you've burned off the parts of you that could be used against you. That's what makes you untouchable. Ask yourself this: when was the moment you stopped running from your inner chaos and began listening to it? When did your fear of darkness turn into a fascination, even reverence? That's not a descent into evil. That's the initiation of a warrior. Because the third sign is this: you carry both light and darkness in balance, and you use them with precision. You know when to be soft and when to be ruthless. You know when to heal and when to cut cords without mercy. You are not bound by the illusion of love and light only. You know that real power is integrated. You can hold space for someone's trauma and call out their shadow without flinching. That's why people either deeply trust you or are terrified of you. And both reactions are accurate. Fourth sign, you've been attacked spiritually, psychically, energetically, and you didn't just survive, you got stronger. This is something most people will never understand. The invisible battles you fought, the nights you couldn't sleep because something was watching, the dreams that weren't just dreams, the sudden heaviness in your chest when a dark force entered the room. Most people would call it imagination. But you know, you've confronted entities. You've felt them test you. You've sensed when something was trying to attach to someone you love. And you didn't panic. You didn't call for help. You stood your ground. Because somewhere deep in your memory, you knew how to command them. That's no accident. That's no coincidence. That's ancestral memory. You've done this before. And that's the fifth sign. You come from a bloodline that was feared, suppressed, or erased. Your ancestors were the ones who were burned, silenced, hunted, or exiled. Not because they were evil, but because they knew the old ways. They held power that couldn't be controlled. You carry that same code. Maybe you felt it as a child, an eerie knowing, a connection to the unseen, a feeling that things weren't as they seemed. You were born awake, and even when you tried to forget, the darkness wouldn't let you. Because the darkness knows its own, and it's not here to consume you, it's here to bow to you once you remember your place. But here's where we go deeper. Sixth sign, you've been labeled as too intense, too much, too serious, or even too dark. People have projected their fear onto you. Relationships couldn't handle your depth. Friends drifted because your presence held up a mirror they weren't ready to look into. You've been misunderstood, misjudged, even demonized. But what if I told you that wasn't rejection, it was spiritual camouflage? The universe has protected you by hiding you in plain sight. Your path has been solitary not because you're broken, but because you were being trained in silence. The world isn't ready for what you carry. But soon, it will be. And when it is, you won't need to announce yourself. Your frequency will do the talking. And now the seventh sign, demons can't touch you because you've already integrated the parts of you they feed on. They feed on fear, shame, guilt, powerlessness. But you've met those frequencies, sat with them, befriended them, learned their language. And now, you've closed the door. You don't repress your darkness. You own it. And because of that, lower entities can't manipulate you. They can't hook into your wounds because you've healed them through fire. They can't seduce you with false power because you've tasted real power and it doesn't need an audience. So now I ask you, what would your life look like if you stopped apologizing for your intensity? What would shift if you embraced your shadow with the same reverence you give your light? What if your darkness wasn't your weakness, but your protection? When we talk about power in the spiritual realm, most people still imagine it as something pristine, white robes, glowing halos, endless peace. But those of us who have walked through the deeper corridors of existence know something different. We understand that real power is forged in the fire of contradiction. It's the kind of power that doesn't flinch when the veil thins. It doesn't tremble when it feels the chill of the unseen. It stands tall not because it's never been tested, but because it has again and again, and it remembers the taste of spiritual war. This is the crown you wear, not made of gold, but of shadow and soul. You didn't earn it. You survived into it. The shadow crown is not a symbol of royalty. It is a symbol of responsibility, because when you realize that demons can't touch you, the real question becomes, what will you do with that immunity? A dark chosen one doesn't seek power, we become it. Not through domination, but through integration. We begin to see that our most terrifying inner experiences weren't punishments, but preparations. The anxiety, the depression, the suicidal thoughts, the spiritual attacks, the isolation, all of it was a kind of brutal training, a stripping away of false layers, a sharpening of spiritual senses. And what remains after the storm is not weakness, it's precision. You don't just sense when something is off in a room, you know exactly where it's coming from and how to shift it. That's why the world has tried so hard to convince you that you're broken. Because if you ever truly stood in your full knowing, you'd become a force that would unravel entire systems of illusion. So let's talk about the illusions. The biggest one? That darkness is to be feared. But we, the dark chosen, know this. Darkness is not evil. Darkness is the womb. It is the origin. It is the space before form, before sound, before thought. It is where all creation begins. And when you've learned to sit in that space silently without needing to escape, you begin to hear the truth. You hear the voices that have been silenced. You feel the ancestors who were buried in shame. You sense the energies that others are too afraid to name. And you realize demons don't live in darkness. They live in denial. They thrive where people are unwilling to look. But you've looked into the abyss, and instead of falling, you remembered how to fly. You start to understand that every time you were rejected, it was protection. Every time you were betrayed, it was redirection. Every time you were attacked, it was spiritual initiation. You were being seasoned in shadow so that when the real tests came, you wouldn't fold. That's why your path has been so lonely. Not because you are unlovable, but because you are uncontrollable. The system couldn't shape you. Religion couldn't contain you. Institutions couldn't define you. You kept breaking the mold, and the mold kept trying to break you. But now, here you are, still breathing, still burning. And that burn you feel, that's not anger. That's not trauma. That's your mission trying to wake you up. So what do you do with this knowing? You walk with clean fire. Not the fire of ego, but the fire of clarity. You stop explaining yourself to people who aren't even ready to see you. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop apologizing for your spiritual authority. Instead, you become precise in your presence. You choose your words wisely. You guard your energy like it's sacred, which it is. You realize not everyone deserves access to your field. Some people were sent to feed off your light, but you now see them clearly. And when you see clearly, you can cut cleanly, not from hate, but from alignment. And here's the paradox. The more you embody your darkness, the lighter you become. Because light without shadow is fragile. It's performative, it crumbles under pressure. But integrated light, that's unshakable. That's the kind of light demons can't manipulate because it's rooted in truth. You're not pretending to be perfect. You're not faking your peace. You're not performing your purity. You're real. And realness creates a vibration that no lower entity can mimic or mock. That's how you become untouchable, not through rituals or crystals or chants, but through radical authenticity. So I ask you now, and I want you to sit with this, if you had nothing to prove, if you fully accepted your light and your shadow, if you stopped apologizing for your depth and your fire, how would you move through this world? What would your relationships look like? What would you create? What would you destroy? Because the real danger is not what demons could do to you. The real danger is you forgetting who you are. That's their only weapon. Confusion, doubt, distraction. But when you see through that, when you sit in the center of your own storm and still hear your soul, you become something terrifying to the dark. You become unshakable, untouchable. You become the reminder that even in the darkest void, God speaks. There's a moment in your journey when you no longer fear the darkness, not because you've conquered it, but because you've become the light within it. That's the final seal. The moment you realize you are no longer reacting to spiritual warfare, energy attacks, or manipulation tactics. You're not dodging shadows anymore. You're radiating something so ancient, so clean, that all falsehood collapses in your presence. That's when you stop being a seeker and become a lighthouse. A silent, constant signal in a chaotic world. You don't chase demons out of rooms. They leave on their own. They recognize the geometry of your field, unshakable, sovereign, encoded with truth. And that's when you finally understand your immunity wasn't earned through rituals. It was earned through remembrance. You remembered who you were before the programming, before the trauma, before the fear. You remembered that you come from a lineage of spiritual warriors, shadow walkers, soul guardians. And now, you walk differently. You speak differently. You move differently. Not because you're trying to be holy, but because you've outgrown the lie. The lie that said you had to be clean to be powerful. The lie that said you had to be loved to be worthy. The lie that said you had to be rescued from darkness. No, you were born in it, molded by it, and now you use it not to destroy but to illuminate, because only someone who has walked through the void knows how to guide others through it. But here's the wisdom most miss. Being a dark chosen one isn't about being better. It's about being responsible. You carry a frequency that can awaken or annihilate. That's why your words have weight. That's why you get tested more often, more intensely. Because your path isn't about comfort, it's about precision tuning. You are a spiritual instrument designed to disrupt illusions, to collapse false timelines, to activate dormant codes in others. And that means you don't get to numb out. You don't get to play small. You don't get to pretend you haven't seen what you've seen. You've been given sight, and with that sight comes spiritual responsibility. The question is, will you honor it? You honor it by becoming unshakably clear. You clarify your field. You cut out what drains. You refine your rituals. You stop explaining your intuition to people who don't respect it. You stop fighting battles that aren't yours. You stop trying to be the savior. Because here's the thing, you were never meant to save everyone. You were meant to stand. And by standing in your full, authentic, integrated frequency, you become a permission slip for others to rise. That's what demons fear the most. Not your rage, not your rituals, but your clarity. Because a clear soul cannot be tricked. A clear soul cannot be hijacked. A clear soul is sovereign, and sovereignty is contagious. So now we arrive at the final truth. You are not here to be protected. You are here to protect the grid, to hold the line in a world that's forgotten the line exists. You are here to walk into rooms and shift the frequency without saying a word, to dismantle ancestral curses simply by being the one who did not fold. You are here to rewrite the narrative, not with sermons, but with embodiment. That's why your presence feels like a disruption. That's why the wrong people can't stay. That's why systems try to silence you, distract you, dilute you, but they can't touch you, because there's no handle, no hook, no fracture. You've sealed yourself from the inside out, with shadow, with fire, with divine remembrance. So I ask you in this final moment, with all the weight it deserves, what would happen if you never forgot this again? What could you create if you stopped seeking initiation and realized you already passed every test? What kind of world could we build if all the dark chosen ones finally stopped hiding and stood up at the same time? That's the real vision. Not domination, not control, but activation. Millions of us standing in silence, radiating raw, integrated power. A frequency so clean demons can't look at us. A vibration so ancient every false system begins to crumble. That's the future. That's the invitation. That's the mission. And if you've made it this far, you've already answered the call. Now that you see clearly, you'll notice something strange begin to happen. You'll stop craving validation. You'll stop trying to be understood. You'll stop needing to convince anyone of your path. Because when you truly embody the dark chosen frequency, the need to be seen by the world dissolves and is replaced by a deeper knowing. You were never here to be seen. You were here to be felt. Your presence becomes your transmission. Your silence becomes your sermon. Your boundaries become your initiation. You stop explaining your value and start living it. And suddenly, the people who are meant to walk with you begin to appear, not because you chased them, but because your field became undeniable. You attract not by force, but by frequency. And this is the ultimate paradox. The more you accept your darkness, the less darkness has power over you. You are no longer running from shadows because you know that most of them are simply exiled parts of yourself waiting to return home. You don't fear being alone because your solitude has become sacred. You don't fear spiritual attack because you've realized that your frequency is a fortress. You've built it brick by brick through years of pain, pattern breaking, and soul excavation. That's why you're here. That's why you're still standing. You didn't come to be a follower of light. You came to be the architect of balance. And balance, not blind purity, is what makes you immune to the lower realms. You'll begin to notice that your presence causes things to shift. People confess things around you. Hidden truths rise to the surface. Entities reveal themselves. Old wounds crack open. That's not a curse, it's your gift. Your field forces authenticity. Your energy dismantles facades. You don't even have to speak. Just being in your vibration is an activation. And while this may feel heavy at times, remember this: you are not carrying the world. You are simply mirroring it back to itself. You are the shadowed mirror that shows what most fear to see, but in doing so, you offer them the greatest liberation. That is the role of the dark chosen one, not to fix, not to fight, but to stand so powerfully in truth that everything false breaks itself against you. So now, the journey is no longer about proving who you are. It's about refining who you are becoming. You don't need to fight demons anymore. You've transcended the fight. You know they can't touch what is whole. You walk with clarity. You walk with fire. You walk with the memory of lifetimes where you've done this before. And now you do it again, not with fear, but with mastery. You are not here to be the loudest. You are here to be the clearest. You are not here to be the most loved. You are here to be the most aligned. You are not here to be saved. You are here to be remembered. And now, you are. There are some of us who were not born into the light. We were born into the fire. We didn't come here to chant mantras under moonlight. We came to stalk the shadows, to walk between realms, to confront what others deny. And if you've ever felt like your life has been a spiritual war zone since day one, if you've ever sensed that you weren't sent here to be saved but to disrupt, then this message isn't just for you, it is you. You are the storm. You are the silence after the scream. You are the one the dark fears, not because you're loud, but because you're clear. And you don't need to raise your voice. Your vibration does the talking. You see, the world has celebrated the light worker for so long, but rarely talks about the shadow walker. The ones who carry both flame and void. The ones who can walk through haunted places and never flinch. Not because they're fearless, but because they've already seen the worst of themselves and survived it. You're not immune to darkness because you're pure. You're immune because you've been there and you came back with your eyes still glowing. That's what makes a dark chosen one untouchable. It's not the absence of shadow, it's the mastery of it. The signs are not always glamorous. In fact, they're often brutal. The first sign is survival. Not just physical, but spiritual. You've endured spiritual attacks others wouldn't even recognize. Nights where you couldn't sleep because something was watching. Panic attacks that weren't yours. Sudden hatred from strangers. Dreams that felt like battles. And yet here you are, still breathing, still burning, still remembering. That's not just strength. That's spiritual immunity. You've earned it through fire. The second sign? You read energy like it's your native language. You don't just sense when something's off, you know where it's coming from. You feel entities before they show themselves. You see beneath people's masks, and you see the shadow behind their smile. It's not paranoia, it's perception. And demons? They hate that, because you can't manipulate what's already been integrated. You don't fear the dark in others, because you've already made peace with the darkest corners of yourself. You are the mirror they can't distort. Third, your energy is disruptive, not because you want it to be, but because it can't be anything else. You walk into a room and hidden truths start surfacing. People confess things to you. Sekretis unghavu. Entities reveal themselves. You're not doing anything special. You're just being. But your frequency is a mirror, one that forces masks to fall and illusions to crumble. It's not always comfortable. You've lost friends. You've been misunderstood. But here's the truth, you're not here to be liked. You're here to light up what's been hiding in the dark. You've probably noticed this too. People either love you deeply or fear you instantly. There's rarely an in-between. Why? Because your vibration is precise. It doesn't allow half-truths. It doesn't play spiritual games. You might be kind, you might be soft-spoken, but your field is surgical. It cuts through distortion. That's the fourth sign. You're not intense because you're dramatic. You're intense because you are clean, spiritually clean. And lower entities, they can't feed off someone who has no leaks. The fifth sign, you've had moments where the veil thinned and you didn't panic. Maybe you saw a spirit. Maybe you heard voices. Maybe you felt an energy press into your chest at night. But even in the fear, something in you knew. You weren't just experiencing something random. You were being tested, and you didn't call for protection. You became protection. You anchored your energy. You stood your ground. That's not just intuition. That's ancestral memory. You've done this before. In lifetimes, in lineages, in dimensions you don't even consciously remember. But your soul does. And here's the sixth sign. Your path has been lonely. Not because you're broken, but because you're rare. You were hidden in plain sight for seasons, camouflaged by the universe itself so that your power wouldn't be hijacked before you were ready. That isolation wasn't punishment. It was preparation. You weren't meant to find your tribe in the crowd. You were meant to become a beacon so your tribe could find you. And when they do, it won't be through words. It'll be through recognition. The seventh sign is the most powerful of all. Demons can't touch you because there's nothing left to feed on. You've integrated the shame, the fear, the rage, the guilt. They don't control you anymore, they serve you. You've transmuted your wounds into weapons. You've turned your trauma into tools. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be whole. And you are. That's why they can't latch on. You're not fragmented. You're not pretending. You're not leaking energy through self-betrayal. You're aligned. And alignment, that's the highest form of protection there is. But now that you know this, a new question arises. What will you do with it? Because being a dark chosen one isn't a title. It's a responsibility. You carry a frequency that has the power to disrupt illusions, collapse false timelines, and activate souls just by existing. That's not something to be taken lightly. Your words have weight. Your silence has gravity. Your choices ripple across dimensions. So let me ask you now, are you moving like someone who knows this? This is where the real work begins. The refining, the deep listening, the cutting away of distractions. Because now you understand that your time, your energy, your field is sacred architecture. You don't let just anyone into your temple. You don't explain your intuition to people who haven't earned your trust. You don't water down your power to be digestible. You live in your frequency fully, fiercely, without apology. Because that frequency is your weapon, your shield, your offering. And when it's clear, everything changes. You'll notice that people begin to shift around you. Some will rise, others will run. That's not personal. That's energetic law. When you become a lighthouse, you don't chase ships, you stand. You let your light do the speaking. And the ones who are meant to sail toward you will navigate through their own storms to reach you. That's the beauty of sovereignty. You stop broadcasting. You start radiating. And that radiance, it's unstealable. You'll also realize that the spiritual war is no longer something you react to. You transcend the fight. You don't flinch when entities appear. You don't run when darkness rises. You command the space with your presence. You don't need to yell. You don't need to threaten. You don't need to cleanse the room. You are the cleanse. You've become the vibration that falsehood cannot survive. That's what it means to be untouchable. Not that you're above challenge, but that you are rooted in a truth that cannot be shaken. And from that place, a new kind of mission emerges. One that's not about saving people, but about awakening them. You're not here to rescue anyone. You're here to embody what they forgot they were capable of. Your life becomes the sermon, not because it's easy, not because it's perfect, but because it's real. And realness, that's what recalibrates the world. That's what demons can't mimic. That's what systems can't replicate. That's what the earth needs now, souls who are undeniable. So I ask you again, at the deepest level, what would your life look like if you never denied your darkness again? If you wore it like a cloak of clarity instead of hiding it like a scar? What could you create if you stopped protecting people from your fire and started blessing them with it? What kind of world would unfold if all the dark chosen ones stood up at once, not to fight but to embody? Because that's the revolution, not external, energetic. You are not here to be safe. You are here to be clean. You are not here to be loved by all. You are here to be aligned with truth. You are not here to blend in. You are here to transmit. And the transmission is this: the age of pretending is over. The age of performance is over. The age of spiritual cosplay is over. What remains? Only the real, only the raw, only the reveal.